Welcome to How Not to DM. I'm your host, Derek. Thanks for joining me on my quest to interview the very best dungeon masters on this plane of existence. Thanks so much, Cade, for coming on and for giving the How Not to studio a chance.
Happy to be here.
There's a lot of duct tape and tissue paper all around us, so be careful with your elbows.
Some ochre jellies holding up the...
It's just goo. It's just goo.
It's just goo holding up these sound panels.
Yes, be careful, please. All right, so please, for the good people out there, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your tabletop role-playing game backstory.
So like Derek said, my name's Cade Larson. I'm very new in the TTRPG space and in the content creation space. So to give a background on myself, I have my very first experience with D&D. I was maybe 7.
Oh.
And we were at a family reunion. And my second cousin said, "Do you want to play Dungeons and Dragons?" And I said, "Sure." And we made characters, and then I had to go home.
Oh, no. Well,
so,
I mean, you've been playing a lot longer than a lot of us then.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you've been into it,
Exactly.
Yeah, so your whole spiel about being new, I don't buy it. Okay.
Yeah, so my first time playing it was when I was 7.
Do you remember the character at all?
I remember it was an elf ranger.
Yeah.
And that is everything I remember. But yeah, we spent like an hour of him like explaining the rules to me and like our other second cousins, and we were just a bunch of little kids, obviously,
right?
And he was like, "Here's how you play, here's what we're gonna do," and like all this stuff, and we like get our characters all built, and then he's like, "All right, sorry guys, I gotta go." We're like, "Sick, man. Okay, catch you never, because you're a second cousin and I'll never see you again."
I was gonna say, have you ever seen him again?
No, I don't even remember his name, to be fair.
Do you remember which side of the family or anything?
Yes, it was my dad's side, and we were at my house. So, like, I remember a lot around the incident, but I have no idea who it was. So,
well,
maybe you're out there listening, and you're my second cousin, and
it's possible.
Let's play sometime.
That would be cool, actually.
Yeah. So then I did not play again for many years, and I've always had like an active imagination, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
I was the kid that in elementary school, me and my friends would play Greek gods on the playground, and we were casting spells and all of that stuff that kids imagine, and have always loved fantasy books and movies and all of that. So I was always on the edge of D&D, kind of, Lord of the Rings and all of that. I am obsessed. So always like right there on the edge, but never quite like took the dive. Probably in like 2016 or so, I have been an avid listener of my brother and me for a lot of years, which I'm sure you're familiar with them. The McElroy brothers, and so they started their D&D podcast, The Adventure Zone, and that was where I got into like actual D&D. Was like, this is actually pretty cool. And so then over COVID, one of my friends invited me to play virtually with him and his wife and one of our other friends, and he DM'd, and we did a one shot that we got about halfway through, and then we never played it again. Which I think is like classic. From what I've learned in my short time, is like, that's just kind of a trope.
It's like a shared experience.
Yeah, everyone has those games that have just been sent to like like TTRPG purgatory.
Yep.
Where it's like, someday we'll pick this back up, and you never do.
I think I probably have a dozen of those, and no exaggeration, just sitting there waiting. Yeah. It's real. It's real.
So 2020 was my first time ever actually playing, and then I ran a one shot of Monster of the Week for some friends, which Monster of the Week is a very fun game. I really enjoyed Monster of the Week because it was like a super the rules are much more wide and just kind of open for whatever you want to do. And then we tried our hand at a fan-made Pokemon TTRPG that we found on the internet.
Actually sounds really fun.
It was pretty cool. We played maybe 2 or 3 sessions with that, and then it also was sent to TTRPG Purgatory, where it remains. And then I have a podcast that I do with some friends that is not TTRPG related, called No Bummers. And there was a day where we were talking about Dungeons and Daddies, and someone made a joke of like, yeah, we should start our own Dungeons and Dragons podcast, and that is where the Badventure Club was born.
Not the Dadventure Club, though, huh?
No, because only one of us is a dad, and there's also Sadie. Who's a woman. So
I feel like only one of the dad, the Dungeons and Daddies is a dad. Right?
I think that's true.
Canonically,
and Beth is also a woman. So
right. You would have fit it to a T. Oh well, next time. Let's jump into your experience running games, which just so happens to be very closely tied to the Badventure Club. Yes. But we'll talk about like the genesis of the show kind of separately. So, your first session running the game, was it recorded and part of the Badventure Club, or was it separate? Do you remember kind of how it went?
Yeah, so for the Badventure Club, we ran a test game that was basically like, we recorded it and it was like, is this something we actually want to do? Does the group play well together? And do I like being the DM? Do they like me being their DM?
Fair.
I think the hard thing about it was we pulled together a group of people that didn't really know each other. So John and Sadie knew each other, Jordan and Skylar knew each other, and then I knew all four of them separately.
Yeah.
And so we kind of brought this group together of like people who I think have good personalities, but we had to do I think we did one test round of 4 hours that we recorded, and just to make sure like everyone's comfortable with what's going to be happening, so that we didn't get 10 episodes in and have someone hate what we were doing.
That is a good idea. And honestly, if you were out there thinking about starting a podcast, that is such a good piece of advice, is to like test it out, make sure that everyone likes it before you decide to commit a ton of time and effort into a logo and a name and like putting a bunch of work into your homebrew world or whatever. Make sure that it's going to work out first, because there's a lot of shows out there that don't go the distance for a variety of reasons, but those are like kind of a big part of it, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so in your Monster of the Week session, you had, I guess, did the McElroys ever play that? Like, how did you hear about it, and then how did that game go? Kind of like running a game for the first time.
So Monster of the Week, the second arc of the Adventure Zone, they play Monster of the Week, and it's set in a modern day West Virginia.
Okay.
And that story I like absolutely loved, because they were basically hunting cryptids, and like, so it was really fun. The Mothman, the Bigfoot, like all of those cryptids that we know were a part of the story. So that was really fun. And I had heard it's a lot less rule heavy than D&D. And so when my buddies were like, hey, we're going to have a boys' night, we want to play a TTRPG, what does everyone think? And I was like, yeah, like I would love to try out Monster of the Week. And so they were like, cool, well, you're going to be the game master then. I was like, oh, right on. So I went on RPG drive-through and bought a one-shot called Too Many Draculas. Have you heard of that?
I have not, no, but
it
sounds fun.
Pretty good. It's set in an amusement park where there's a bunch of murders happening, and there's like 4 different Draculas, and one of them's the real Dracula. So they're having to like figure out which Dracula is actually killing people. And
all right.
I won't give too much away, but that's like a plug for whoever created that. I have no idea who even wrote it, but it was a lot of fun.
I'll link it in the episode notes.
And just goofy. And the rules I had to know was like, if you land between a 1 and a 6, it's a fail. At 7 to 9, it's a moderate success, and a 9 to 12, it's a success. Like, so me as a GM, I had a lot of breadth of like not having to apply too many rules, which was really nice.
Yeah, it does seem like to start out, it'd be better to run lighter systems like that. And also, I've noticed that a lot of people who get into role-playing games, usually D&D is the gateway drug. So it's interesting that you played other stuff first. But
Amnesty is the name of that site. It just popped into my head. The Adventure Zone Amnesty.
Now we know. But a lot of people will play D&D and then they go one of two ways, or three ways, I guess. They stay with 5e, or they say I want to go way more fun and loose,
going into the
or
dark.
they say I want way more crunch and they go play Pathfinder or something, right? So.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Pathfinder, and every video I've watched has turned me off of it. So
I have yet to try it. I have also got Pathfinder PDFs and stuff, but again, haven't convinced anybody to try it with me yet.
I've heard a lot of people say that they were moving to Pathfinder recently, and I've watched a couple videos and I was like,
I'm not ready yet.
That's a lot.
Yeah. All right. So you've been running games for a little bit, then you've run a few different systems. Tell us about what some of the mistakes you've made behind the screen, and it can be any of these systems, podcast or not, and what lessons you feel like people could learn or pick up from your experiences.
The number one thing that I have taken from all of the game systems that I've played through, so Monster of the Week, the fake online Pokemon one, and D&D, and then we also have a one shot where we played the Quiet Year.
Oh yeah,
the Quiet Year is really cool. I could not recommend that one more, and that one is like super friendly for new people. It's a one shot thing, so if you have like 4 hours and you have a friend that you want to introduce to TTRPGs, the Quiet Year, all you need is a deck of cards and a piece of paper.
Yeah, it's almost board game-esque.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So what I've learned over those couple of different systems is that at the heart, they're games. And so if I'm not having fun and my players aren't having fun, then the point is lost, And I think there's some people out there that like you said, the crunchy people who are like, they love the rules and the crunch and the like, I have to flip through 400 pages of rules to like find out how this interaction should go.
Yep.
But to me, that's not really fun. So sorry. There's going to be a lot of stuff if you listen to the Badventures Club that I get wrong as a DM, because it's more of just like, I don't want to bother looking it up. And so I'm just like, yeah, this is what happens. Or like, this is how that spell reacts, or this is how whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's like my number one thing that I learned is in our first foray, I kind of like over prepared, and I had this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And I'm still working on getting better at that. But there's so much fun that is lost if you try to stick to this, at least in my mind.
Yeah. And it's going to vary by group, right? But your group is definitely, they're looking for the fun stuff in between.
Right. Yeah. My group wants to kill monsters and, have fun interactions with NPCs and solve mysteries. They're not the ones that are like so worried about their KD and their I don't know that. Does Dungeons and Dragons have KD?
I mean,
is that like
they're gonna know what you're talking
about? A trackable stat?
It could be. I know some people like didn't your players were tracking, weren't they? Didn't one of them say, "Oh, you finally killed someone"? That happened recently.
Yes, that happened.
So someone's tracking it.
Probably like episode 6 or 7 when they met up with Taffy Leaf Ovens for the first time. Taffy. So yeah, I think that was is my biggest thing I've learned is that my job is to both make sure that there's a fun environment for people to play in, but part of that is I have to be having fun too. I think some of the reasons that our other games burned out over the past couple of years that I've played has been that one of the two parties hasn't been having a lot of fun, the GM or the party, the players.
Yep.
And so there's a lot less excitement to like get into a 4-hour session. That's that's a hard commitment.
It's a lot of time
for you who have a family. We have John who has a family. We've got, all 5 of us have adult jobs that take time. We have trips that we want to go on. We have, so if you're not having fun, it's really easy to lose people. So I think that's one of the things that I would recommend to people is like figure out what your group wants as in terms of like what's going to be fun and do your best to meet that.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's like we said, some people it's just, they just want to kill monsters. Some people like the rules and that's fine. But you just have to understand that maybe you don't play D&D with the rules people.
Yep. if it's not your style. Yeah. It's very true, and there's groups out there who just want a power build, right? Like,
right,
all of them want a power build, and that's what they like.
And more power to them. Like, if that's where you get your enjoyment, I'm not gonna yuck your yum, and like, I just probably won't play with you.
Yeah, it's and totally fair, totally fair. And not everyone can play with everybody.
Don't take offense to that. Like,
I don't think anybody would.
You know, because at the heart, it's a game. Like, it's a tabletop role playing game.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be anyway.
Make sure you're having fun.
So, in that vein, then, talking about having fun, what do you feel like is one of the most fun moments or memories or whatever from your games that you can share with people, and kind of what do you think created it or facilitated that fun? That memory?
A recent episode that's out of the Badventure Club that people can listen to is the Goo episode. Where
light spoilers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the party was having like the hardest time understanding the room that I was describing to them, and they're like, "So the goo is like in front of us." I'm like, "There's just goo everywhere. There's goo everywhere. It's just goo." And like, I just kept saying, "It's just goo. It's just goo. It's just goo," to the point that like that became the episode name. It's just goo. Like, because they were like, "Well, is it if I touch it, does it do anything? If I walk through it, if I, And they spent like 20 minutes deciding how they were going to interact with this goo before finally someone was like, "All right, I just walk into the room." It's like, "Thank you." I think just stuff like that for some reason, and I think this is also a universal thing, like the stuff that I expect to be really straightforward and easy is never straightforward and easy. I mean, there was an episode that we just recorded where they come across a chest and they spend 5 minutes deciding, okay, is this actually a mimic? Is this, how are we going to handle this? What are we going to do? Should we poke it? Should we just walk past it? Should we leave it? And so finally they say, okay, I walk over and I open the chest. I'm like, okay, the chest opens. Like, that's all. It was just a chest. Yep. Sometimes a chest is just a chest.
Yep. Doors, chests, any kind of puzzles. Yeah. Anytime you describe something in detail, they're going to like, okay, well, how are we going to approach this? Like, what do we,
right.
Can we step on these stones on the ground, or whatever? They're going to put way too much meaning into it.
Right. And that's my favorite kind of stuff, is when I just have to be like, okay, you guys, it's just goo. It's a chest. It's just goo. You just got to move on. I've got like 4 pages of notes. We're not going to get through a page today if we don't start moving. But the other thing that I think is super fun is I enjoy the voices and like being characters, and it's just me and John on our podcast that do voices, and everyone else just uses their normal voice. But it goes back to like having fun, and like we make it work. We have fun with it. And like, if I ever introduce an NPC that doesn't have a voice, they like roast me for it. They're like, "You're just using your normal voice." I'm like, I have 100 people that I have to be. So pardon me if they don't all have like a fun, crazy voice.
Have you ever played a video game? There's like tons of reused voice actors.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Skyrim, like there's like 10 people in Skyrim,
right?
And they all have the same voice. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have
Get over it.
John, who has like this gorgeous Southern drawl that he does, and everyone else is just their normal voices. And I'm starting to run out. So if you have any voice ideas, send them my way.
Yeah, I'll bet you, I'll bet you there's some D100 tables out there you could roll
probably
to like give you some ideas.
Yeah.
And I'll actually show you one here in a little bit.
Sweet.
That maybe will give you some ideas where you don't have to think of a new accent, but like just a different way they might sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough though. Like anytime you're running a game and you've got to like introduce them to someone new, especially someone you weren't planning on them talking to, you're like, okay,
when you're creating the person in your head as you're trying to come up with a voice and like why they're tied to the story at all.
Do they know any information that I'm gonna have to give them here? Yeah,
right.
It's a lot to work on, but it's a good skill. Is there anything in particular other than like the railroading versus the fun aspect that you're working on right now as part of your game? And what are you doing to try to improve it?
Having like a decompression session with the group after, and saying, okay, like, and I maybe don't necessarily ask like, what did you like? What didn't you like? But having that open conversation of like, okay, with what happened today, how did you guys feel about it? What can I do better? And maybe even if you're not asking those questions, you're having the conversation that you can glean that information from.
Yeah.
There are some people who get really frustrated with long role play scenes, and there's some people who get really frustrated with like going shopping, or if the rules get too heavy, or if you try to make them do a voice, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things that I'm working on, is knowing my players better so that I can make a better game for them, because that's what I have found is a lot of fun, is when we finish a session and they say, "Oh, I wish we could play longer," or "Oh, when can we meet again? I really want to get back into it," or those kind of things I get enjoyment from. So if I can figure out what I need to do better to make that happen every time.
Yeah.
And I found that just chatting with them for 5 minutes as we're packing up stuff, I can learn a lot.
Yeah, there's no better compliment to me than like, "Oh, like when can we play?" or like, "Can we keep playing?" Yeah. That's like music to my ears.
Which I think, was it the night that you came and did the 2 hot one shot, that it was like 1:00 in the morning when we were
I don't think
packing
it was
everything up? Was it not that late? It might have been just a regular Badventure Club session, but there was a night where it was like 1:00 in the morning, and everyone was like, "Can we please just keep going?" And I was like, "You guys, I've got to go to bed. I'm really sorry. I love you all." John has a kid's soccer game at like 8:00 in the morning. He's has to drive from Provo to Saratoga. Like, it's not gonna happen. I'm really sorry.
Oof, yeah, you got to get your kid up and ready for that game.
Right.
Yeah, there's no way.
So it's like you say, that's a good compliment, and that is like part of what has driven me to ask those questions and figure out what I can do better, because if I can get that every single time, then I'm doing something right,
I like it. Is there a time where a player has just totally destroyed all of your best laid plans and you had to think quickly on your feet to resolve it? And tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So we played on Saturday
Mm-hmm.
and recorded a bunch of episodes, which we're like quite a few episodes ahead. So I'm gonna try and be spoiler free. But I had a situation that the party was in, and I kept dropping hints like, "This guy is real powerful that you're talking to the point of they were talking amongst themselves, being like, I think that the way Cade's phrasing that stuff means he's pretty powerful." And so, of course, what do? They poke the bear and initiate this horrible fight. And I had to like think of like, okay, how am I going to get them out of this? Like,
without killing them all.
I don't want to have a TPK on my hands, because we're a podcast, yeah, so we have to do? Like we have to kind of stay alive. And so that, I guess, was a lesson for me of like, I maybe need to be a little more explicit on things like that, because it was meant to be like a fact-finding mission, and me dropping those hints was meant to be like, do not try to fight this person, they will kill you, like, stay away. If this was a video game, he would have 10 red skulls above his head, like
there'd be a quick save before you enter the room.
Yeah, exactly. And so the bullet time of like, we're in combat, and I'm like, my mind is racing as I'm trying to keep combat going and like monitor recording and like all of this stuff, and I'm like, how are we gonna get out of this? What is like the Hail Mary, like end of the fourth quarter kind of thing that I can do to save this? And you'll have to listen to find out.
He got you.
Episode 17.
He got me too. I haven't heard it yet, so yeah, I'm excited.
Welcome to Quickfire Chaos.
So today, Cade and I are playing a little Quickfire Chaos. We're going to roll some D100s, which he's got right here, on some random tables from the internet, which I've got pulled up, and we're going to create a little scenario to roleplay. And these in-person roleplays are always fun, so let's see what we've got. Cade has elected to do city quests because I told him that fetch quests were a little easier, so everyone knows now that he is up for the challenge.
Bully me in the comments.
Get in the comments. Okay, I've always wanted to say that. The first table we're going to roll on is the city quest. So let's see what kind of weird stuff is happening in the city.
92.
An employee in a lumberjack costume offers the party free samples of jerky from a nearby tavern, counting as 1 daily ration. Oh, that's nice. The next is the voice description. So this could be of some other character if you're not going to play the lumberjack, or it could be the lumberjack. You get to decide.
1.
Speaks slowly and tends to mumble, tends to ramble. Okay. That's interesting. Next up is personality traits of this NPC.
All right. 52.
Incompetent. Unable to execute tasks no matter the size or difficulty. And last but not least is their job. What they might be wearing, where we might find them, that kind of stuff.
42.
42. A bandit. Okay. A mumbling, incompetent bandit. Some jerky in the city. A dude dressed as a lumberjack. You get to connect the dots here, Cade. And I get to roll along with it. I am going to be a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed... I don't think I've been a human in a long time. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed human. We're going as basic as possible. Fighter. Not a lot of intelligence, not a lot of wisdom. And I am just raring for adventure. And I'm in town, and I'm so excited to find someone who needs something done for them. Paint the scene for us. Paint the picture. Tell us where we find ourselves.
Okay. So you have just entered the tavern.
Mm-hmm.
Your hands full of jerky.
Okay, yeah, I'm the guy with the jerky. I love this. Okay, I've got a handful of jerky.
A handful of jerky that you just received on your way in.
Mm-hmm.
And with this handful of jerky, you're just hankering for some meat.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously. So you walk up to the bar, sit down. The bartender plops a tankard in front of you. And as you scan about the room, you see there's not very many people or creatures in the tavern, with the exception of one figure in a dark hood that is sitting right next to you.
Oh, okay.
So you sit down, and this dark figure comes and sits right next to you.
Oh, he sits next to me. It wasn't that I was just dumb enough to sit next to him.
No,
okay.
You sit down, he comes and sits next to you.
Yeah.
And he has his back turned to you, but you hear him say, "Oi, bruv."
I'm gonna kind of look around, see if I saw where the noise came from, and then whoa, oh wow, well, I didn't see you there. Do you want some jerky? This guy just gave it to me outside. He's so nice. Everyone's in this town is just so nice. I love it.
And the hooded figure slaps the jerky out of your hand, and he says,
"Oh,
you're being too obvious."
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
what do you need?
Now, hey, listen. If you're looking for a job, I need some help. I'm trying to pull off the greatest jerky heist in all of this town's history.
More of this stuff?
Yeah.
Wow, this is so good. Okay.
Now,
what's the street value on this stuff?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
I haven't really. Maybe I should have looked that up beforehand, but
it's okay. I'm sure we can make a killing if it's this good.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, right?
Okay, so heist, that means we're stealing?
No. So listen here. I come from, let's see, maybe I could tell you I'm from, my family owned the cows that the jerky was made from. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Oh, your family owns a jerky farm?
No, they stole our cows.
Oh, someone stole your cows
and made them into jerky. Can you believe
it? Need to get it back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all making sense.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you need help.
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab my sword off my back.
and he
super excited.
He goes, whoa. What did I tell you about being discreet?
Right. Just carefully sheath it again. Okay, so your family used to own some cows, and they got stolen by these people who then turned it into this jerky. And so we need to get it back so that to make things right. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Where, when? How?
So that you saw the lumberjack that was outside.
Yeah.
And on his shirt, he had a patch that said Mama Pepper's Beef Jerky and Dairy Farm.
So that's a front. That's not a real store.
No, they stole all our cows.
Okay.
Butchered them. Right? Isn't that what they do to cows?
Isn't that what you do?
Yeah. No, yeah. Me and my family do that. But they also did it.
Okay.
And then, but they stole our cows.
Uh-huh.
And so we need to, you need to help me get the cows back. No, not the cows.
Just the jerky.
The jerky.
Mama Peppers.
Mama Peppers.
Should I meet you there at dusk? Like, how do we do this?
Well, I get really sleepy at night, so I was thinking maybe we could shoot for like noon.
I almost like look out the window like, I think that's now.
Oh, shoot.
And he starts rustling around, fumbling around, and he pulls out one potion and clunks it down onto the table, and he says,
"This is all I have to pay you with right now. It's what kind of potions you like?"
I've never had a potion before, but I know you need them to be an adventurer.
Yes, this is an adventuring potion.
All right.
And it's just a vial full of just like a greenish brown liquid,
Pond water.
and there's like a cork stopper in it, and it just looks dubious.
I'm like eyeing it down big time, like.
And he says,
adventuring potion.
This is yours. It makes you. It automatically jumps you to level 10.
Level 10. I don't even know what that means.
And if you help me today, and by help me I mean I'm gonna have you do a lot of it.
I mean,
this
that's
will
only
be
fair.
yours.
Okay. So, should we go then? Right now?
Well, I mean, maybe tomorrow. I'm kind of tired now.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll stay here at this tavern tonight, and then
Get your strength up.
Yeah.
Maybe go do some reconnaissance.
Ooh, yeah. Some push-ups. Yeah. Reconnaissance.
I've heard that's something you should do before a heist.
Go to a library and look up some of these words you're using.
Maybe you could ask around and ask if people know what reconnaissance is.
And I could also ask them about Mama Peppers.
That could be good.
Okay. I'll meet you here tomorrow at noon?
No. Yeah. Noon works. I was gonna say if we could do like 1:30.
Yeah, all right, sure. That gives me more time for looking up words.
Yeah.
We do like the predator handshake.
A predator handshake.
Done.
And then just like that, he runs out the back door, and
I just have this big stupid grin on my face for the rest of the day.
and he's left the potion on the bar.
I'll probably take it and stash it in my bag for later.
You never know when you're gonna need it.
Might get some dysentery or something. Okay, I love it. Let's jump in now to the Badventure Club and chatting about your show, how it started, all of that good stuff. So yeah, let's start there. You talked about it being a joke with your other podcast friends and how it's kind of like different groups of people that didn't really know each other. So yeah, tell us about how it all came together.
So it started as a joke on our other podcast, No Bummers, and Jordan, our mutual friend, texted me, and he was like, "Just so you know, if you ever like make that real, I would love to be part of it." I'm like, man. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Like, that seems like a lot of work, and so I kind of like put it out of my mind for a little bit.
But you're the one with the mics and the whole setup.
Yeah. So then eventually, like, the more it kind of sat and like gnawed at me, and I was like, it would be fun. Jordan's a cool dude. It would be a good time. And so I reached back out to him and I was like, hey, so if we did, you'd be interested? And he's like, yeah, man, I for sure would be interested. So we had Jordan on board, and then John is the one who I had played D&D with before.
Okay.
So he was pretty easy to get on board because he knew what he was doing. And then Skylar and I had worked together a couple of years ago and I knew he was big into D&D because he also hosts another podcast called Culture Couch, and they had done a couple of episodes where they talked about D&D.
Okay.
And so I knew he was maybe a long shot because he's in 2 other campaigns, which, like, bless his heart, I don't know how he makes it work, but he is in 3 separate campaigns that are all currently running. So I don't think he does much else besides work and play D&D.
Sounds kind of good, to be honest. I get it.
And then our last friend Sadie is just someone we know from where John and I work, and she had never played D&D before, and she just has a great personality. And so it was more of the kind of thing of, hey, we're all kind of going into uncharted territory. Do you want to play with us? have fun. We think you would do well at the game, but also on the podcast. We think you have a good personality and like could bring a different perspective to the game, because all 3, John, Jordan, and Skylar, all had like way more experience than Sadie or I had. And so I kind of wanted another fresh person there with me that could like we could balance out the power a little bit, because I think there is something to be said for a long-term player, but there's also something to be said for that fresh, brand new person.
Yes.
Who can look at things in a way, they've never encountered a room full of goo before. So how are they going to handle it versus Skylar, who's in 3 different campaigns,
right, who might know like 80% of the monster manual by now.
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
Right?
He's played against all of it. And so there's something really fun about our dynamic, I think, because we've become friends, all of us, as we've played, and like we have a fun dynamic, and it's a good mix of really experienced, medium experience, no experience, and kind of all of that convalescing into our finished product.
I like it. So you had all the podcasting stuff, which was an easy into.
Right.
If you were to go back and change anything from starting this particular show, you had recording experience, you had done a little bit of this content creation stuff before you jumped into an actual play. But yeah, is there anything that's kind of jumped out at you that's really different or hard about an actual play versus a normal, or not a normal podcast, but another podcast? What are like the big similarities and differences for you? And then also, if you were to start an actual play again, would you change anything?
The main difference has been the level of preparation. So my other podcast is called No Bummers, and that is what we do. We talk about everything. The only rule is that no bummers. So
no sad stuff, right?
Yeah. And so my preparation for No Bummers is I think of one question and we talk about it for 15 minutes. And then my other 2 friends each think of a question and we talk about that for 15 minutes. So my preparation is almost zero.
Ooh.
For that, which you do this. That sounds nice, right?
It does sound nice. It does sound nice.
And granted, there still is like the post-production stuff of like editing, socials, and all of that kind of stuff. But that was the thing I think I was the least prepared for coming into Badventure Club, was I have to prep a D&D campaign, but also take care of all of the editing and the socials and all of that other stuff too. So I think it was just I should have been maybe more thoughtful. Not thoughtful. It hasn't been bad. I've loved doing it. It's been so much fun and I wouldn't trade it, but I maybe wasn't prepared or underprepared.
Yeah, you didn't expect the workload to be what it is. Kind of thing. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I'd been doing No Bummers.
It's almost a year now.
Yeah, we'll be at a year later this month since we started recording that. And so we were at 6 months or so. And so I had a ton of experience where I was like, podcasting is so easy. I don't know why people why doesn't everyone have a podcast? But it was just that our premise is so simple, and with Badventure Club, we have a premise that is, I have to write 4 hours worth of story every couple of weeks.
Yes. Yeah. The prep is very different. I don't prep as much as an actual play podcast might, but for instance, I listened to your whole show before I had you on, or even before I came on as your guest, right? Like,
Yeah.
and most of my guests, I'll try to listen to a bulk
Enough.
of, if not all of their show,
Yeah.
just so I have a really good feel for their style and I have good questions to ask. So that could be quite a bit of time. I
Yeah.
feel like I've put in 150 episodes for one of my guests before. Luckily,
Whoa.
I had 2 different people on from that same show, so it was only
So
75 hours.
Only 75.
But
just 3 days.
Right. But luckily, it was a show I enjoyed. And I only have people on that I enjoy talking
Yeah.
to, so that's nice. But yeah, prep is a big part of it.
Well,
yeah.
and I think that's what makes good content too. Like, I think the reason that your show does as well as it does is because you are prepared, and because of the premise you've built and what you have chosen to like make your show about, you have to be like, if you didn't know anything about my podcast, this would be a much more difficult conversation for us to have.
Yeah, no one would listen to that. It'd be boring. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you decided to do an entire homebrew world for the show as well. Had you done any thinking about this homebrew world before you decided we're going to do a podcast? Or was it after the fact, all right, I'm going to throw this all together? And then, yeah, like, what's it like having to create everything from the ground up for the episodes you're recording?
Yeah, I kind of shot myself in the foot with that one. That's also maybe something I would change, is incorporate like a little bit more of like, we're going to run this module and like we'll tie it into this other module and we'll tie it into this module, which, to be fair, our whole first arc is a module that I purchased and like built it into my homebrew world.
Smart.
And that's maybe something I will go back to doing more, just because it helps cut down my prep work a lot. I think in my mind, homebrew, I'm like, that is so cool. It's I'm not going to run the risk of like Skylar having played that module before. I'm not going to have risk of Jordan or John having heard it on a different actual play podcast, or seen it on Critical Role, or seen it on whatever, and so that's the draw of homebrew. Plus it helped me be invested, which was part of what I like about it, is it's a world I created. And then I also texted each of the members of the party beforehand and said, I have created this area of the world that you're from, but I want you to answer these questions about that area. So Cal is our Dragonborn Paladin, played by John. And so I texted John and said, Cal is from this part of the world called Eutropine, and it's desolate. Tell me about the city where Cal's from. Is he from a city? They're in the desert. Where did Cal grow up? How did he grow up? What's the city like? What's the culture? Are there lots of cities, or is it one big city? Is it, So I let them kind of build their own corners of the world that we've had a chance to start getting to and exploring a little bit. And that's part of what I think has got their buy-in on the homebrew world, is that they have helped create it.
That is a really good idea, and I feel like it's key to making homebrew work, and also like let all the players feel ownership over it. And that actually ties really nicely into the next question, which is, how do you work with your players, either collectively or individually, to help weave in their backstories in the narrative you're telling?
Maybe for different campaigns it looks different, but essentially giving them ownership in the world that you're playing in. And even if you're playing in a module, you could say, hey, you're from this part of Neverwinter. Tell me about the neighborhood where your character grew up. What was the neighborhood like? How did they grow up? Are they in an affluent part of the city? Are they in a poor part of the city? Like, those kind of things can help them flesh out their backstory, helped me to understand their character a lot better. But then it also gave me information that I can weave into the story. So for those of you that are listening or will listen to the Badventure Club, Chris, our rogue halfling, his dad has been missing for 10 years. And so that's a piece that I can work with.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not to know if he's coming up or not. The latest episodes that have been released, there's been speculation, but no one's for sure.
But then, I mean, Alistair, our sorcerer, his parents died in an avalanche, and he's been on his own bounty hunting for years. And so that gives me some fun to play with Taffy Lee Fubbins.
Right.
the character that I introduce and I say, Alistair, this is your rival bounty hunter that you've known and basically worked against for years, and we can play that dynamic and things like that, that. So I think that's why knowing the character's backstory and weaving it into the story is important, because it helps me to pull them in more and helps them feel like, okay, my character is part of this story. I didn't go on a character builder and I'm walking through Skyrim now. It's my character was born on the streets of the capital city and has been busking for money and all that stuff. That's really important to get character, or to get your party engaged in the story you're trying to tell.
I love it. And like I said, I've noticed little strings here and there of backstories being tied in, and I think you've done a really good job of it so far.
Thank
so
you.
Wanted to
Hopefully
dig
it
into that.
comes together.
Yeah, I guess you know more than the rest of us about how it's coming together. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right. So, what is the future of Badventure Club like? Do you have any idea about how far you want to take the story, or how far through your planned arc you are, and then after that, are any plans beyond your first campaign here?
As far as how far this arc will go, I have an end in mind.
Yeah.
But who knows if we'll get there.
Who knows?
I mean, I think with something like an actual play, there needs to be an end at some point, even if it's just the end of this chapter,
Right.
and you pick it up later on or something like that.
Right.
So I think we will get to an end of this saga of the group that I have now, and I hope that my same group will stay on, because I would love to keep doing it. But we've talked about possibly dipping our toe into Monster of the Week or some other system. So if you have a favorite system that's not Pathfinder, let me know. Sorry, I mean, no one's gonna want to listen to this because I'm just crapping on Pathfinder, and I might not be the DM next time. John might pick it up. I don't think Skylar would, but maybe he would. Jordan's expressed some interest in DMing, so I think the group of us will play together in some form. And as far as where we're at in the Badventure Club, we just finished recording episode 17, and I'd say we're probably a third of the way done.
Oh, okay.
Of what I have envisioned.
That's not bad. You've got people out there who prefer the shorter story arcs, or who love the long 4-hour episodes, 200 episodes worth.
Yeah,
but I feel like that's a
me.
good medium.
No. That's I mean, a lot of props to Matt Mercer. He's awesome, but
not a lot of people can do it.
No, and I don't want to be that. I have so much respect for him, and he's amazing. Like him, Brendan Lee Mulligan, all of those guys have so much skill and passion for what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also not my style of having this massive 400-hour. Well, I guess by the time we're done, it might be 400 hours. Who knows?
Who knows? But yeah, you're not a professional voice actor. Your players aren't.
Right.
There's going to be differences.
Yeah. So the future of the Badventure Club, I think, is we're just going to keep playing and recording, and we hope people listen. But even if not, we're having a lot of fun.
Perfect.
And that's what matters.
That is what matters. All right, to wrap things up, Cade, what are some of your words of advice you got for people out there, and especially for people who are thinking about dipping their toes into running games or recording themselves running games, especially?
I think number one is just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not to steal Nike's slogan, but and maybe that's just my personality of when I decide I want to do something, I just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of how Badventure Club started. That's how our other podcast, No Bummers, started. Was just should we do this? I'm yeah, let's do it. And if you have the thought, then at least give it some more thought, I guess. Because that's one thing that I feel like I have missed out on, is I didn't start playing TTRPGs until I was in my mid-20s.
Yep.
And granted, I have run the gambit of video games and books and movies and all of that kind of stuff, but it's a whole different level to have that game going. And I get it's hard. I mean, I know that there's some places that it's probably hard, and some people who their friends aren't interested or their family's not interested or whatever. There's resources out there. I think the internet has been a great resource for people like that who have always wanted to dip their toes in. You can get online and play a one shot with random people across the country and get your fix there, or go to your local game shop. And I know that a couple of game shops around here close have like intro nights where you can basically just come and test it out.
Yeah, there's tons around here. But any game store that is near you, you can check out. Usually their website will have something, but if not, you can call them up and ask them. They've got some kind of schedule. Friday night is usually Magic the Gathering, but they've got a D&D night in there somewhere.
It's not as lucrative as Magic the Gathering for
true.
the game shop.
It's true, 100%. Having talked to game store owners, that's no lie.
No, Magic the Gathering is like where they make their money, but
it's where Wizards makes their money too. Yeah, it's nuts. Anyway, all right, Cade. So thank you so much for coming on.
Happy to.
When does the show release? Where can people find you, the show, socials? Where can they interact? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so we are at the Badventure Club on most socials. I think on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. It's just at the Badventure CL because they didn't let us have that many letters. And on Spotify, Apple Music, we are the Badventure Club. So you just search that on your podcatcher of choice. I think we're on a couple of other podcatchers. Stitcher's going away, apparently.
Yeah.
So we won't be on Stitcher anymore. Don't look for us there. But yeah, you can follow us on all of our social stuff. We're trying to get better at posting more regularly on socials. But we release new episodes every Wednesday. Not every Wednesday. Every other Wednesday. Sorry. Every other Wednesday. Hopefully someday we can get to the point where we can release every Wednesday.
Sounds like your players need to start pitching in a little more when you were talking about running the whole show.
Hey.
So if you want it to happen more often than every other Wednesday, listeners and players on the Badventure Club, you know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we have Jordan who did all of our artwork. He is a player on the Badventure Club. He plays Chris, our halfling rogue. He's an amazing artist, so go check out some of his stuff at J-Stu Illustrations. He does commission stuff, so reach out if you're looking for some character design stuff. He's really incredible. And then go check out my other podcast, No Bummers. It's not D&D related at all. I think we talked about D&D on one episode, and that birthed the Badventure Club.
I'm gonna have to go find that episode of this one now. Yeah. All right. Well, Cade, I appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate you
for having me.
How Not to Studio guinea pig, and really excited to number one hear all those Too Hot One Shot episodes that are coming out, and also hear what's going to happen next in the Badventure Club.
Yeah, the Too Hot One Shot will be out when this comes out, so go give it a listen. Derek did a great job DMing.
Yeah,
recording. No, you did a great job. It was actually nice to play with an experienced DM. No shade to John, who is my only previous experience playing for DM, but when someone has done it for a while, you can tell.
I've run games a lot, but I haven't run a lot of games without a map and without being able to move my body around. I'm kind of one of those pacers, and I like stand up and stuff, and so having the mic discipline, it probably isn't very good. You're gonna hear me doing this a lot, so I'm
coming
sorry.
in and out.
It's gonna be like that unless you're like super. I don't know.
If it's been bad, I've adjusted, so we're good.
Anyway, yeah, go check out Badventure Club. Go check out the Too Hot One Shot bonus episodes, and yeah, if you are new to How Not to DM because of the Badventure Club, go check out some of my previous episodes. And also, yeah, if you're listening to this because you like How Not to DM, then go check out Badventure Club.